Peace and shalom, Israel. Before we start the lesson, hit the notification button because we upload lessons every week and I don't want you to miss a single one of them. Like, comment, subscribe, and if there's a topic you would like for us to cover, we'll see what we can do. So until next time, cue the music. All praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everyone joining us on this program. This is the Fountain of Israel Bible Studies program, and as always, it's an honor for me to stand before you on the Lord's holy Sabbath day. Now we're going to jump right into a back to Torah lesson. Again, this is the back to Torah lesson, and we're going to be dealing with the cleanliness law, or law of cleanliness. We want to dig back into our culture and what we used to do, or our forefathers, I should say, what our forefathers done in the past, and look at the different types of uncleanliness. It's spiritual, it's physical, it's ritual, and we're going to look at and try to unpack all of that and the significance of being clean before the Most High God. So with that, we're going to start right in Leviticus chapter 15. We're going to jump in there, and I think we're just going to read the whole chapter of Leviticus 15, and then we'll unpack what it means to be spiritually clean or unclean as we journey through the Bible. Leviticus chapter 15, and we're going to start at verse 1. Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 1. Let's dive right in. Let the Bible speak.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue he is unclean.
Let's look at what issue means, okay? Issue is zab. It is a Hebrew word, zab, and it means a flow, issue, a discharge, flux. Okay, semen, a discharge, okay? So any type of discharge, any type of bodily fluids coming out of you is an issue. So if you have an issue of the flesh, you are considered unclean. Continue.
And this shall be his uncleanness in his issue, whether his flesh run with his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue. It is his uncleanness. Okay, so the Lord basically was trying to keep us from having infectious diseases and things like that. Don't deal with someone who has an issue. Let's look at what uncleanness means. It is tumah, okay? It's the Hebrew words tumah. It's uncleanness, whether it be sexual or filthiness, unethical, or religious, ritual uncleanness. There's different types of uncleanness. Do we understand so far? Okay, now we know this one is a physical uncleanness. Verse 4. Every bed whereon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even.
Yes.
And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat that hath the issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. Which is why we like disinfect things. People they cough and sneeze and all that, and we go around at least I do, go around and spray everything down, just because you don't want any diseases or germs or anything like that to infect you. But that's what it means to be unclean. Where were you in verse 6? Okay, so verse 6 it says, And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat that had the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Verse 7. And he that toucheth the flesh of him that hath the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening.
Go ahead.
And if he that hath the issue spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening.
Go ahead.
And what saddle soever he rideth upon that hath the issue shall be unclean, and whosoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the evening. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. And whomsoever he toucheth that hath the issue and hath not rinsed his hands in water, and he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean unto the evening.
On a side note, you guys think this is where people get that little adage, cleanliness is next to godliness? You think this might be where it came from? Maybe. Even though that phrase is not in the Bible, it just rings in my head as we go through this. But continue, what, verse 13?
And the vessel of earth that he toucheth which hath the issue shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water.
Go ahead.
And when he that hath an issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and bathe his flesh in running water, and shall be clean.
Go ahead.
And on the 8th day he shall take to him 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them unto the priest.
Now this is the spiritual part of it that we're going into, but go ahead. 15.
And the priest shall offer them, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord for his issue.
Go ahead.
And if any man's seed of
Copulation
go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean unto the evening.
Okay, so we're all adults here. We understand what that means. So when a man, when he lays with his wife, when it's over, wash up. It's that simple. Go ahead. 17. Every garment.
And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water, and be unclean unto the evening. The woman also with whom man shall lie with the seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water, and be unclean unto the evening.
Okay.
And if a woman shall have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean unto the evening. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Yet everything that also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean unto the evening. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean unto the evening.
Okay.
And if it be on her bed, or on anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean unto the evening. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean.
Okay, 2 things. So far, what we've read, it doesn't seem like it's a sin unto death. You are considered unclean. Okay, if you guys are together and you know it's your wife's time, and you come nigh unto her, then you are considered unclean as well for 7 days. So on her bed or anything. Now, I don't know everyone's living arrangement or whatever. If you have a separate room, if you can sleep in a separate room, you know, you can. But again, so far we haven't read there is a sin unto death. So, you know, you need to tread lightly. You need to tread lightly and do the best you can. Okay, so that's what we have to understand. And it says, what in 24 it said, and if any man lie with her at all, and her flower be upon it, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed thereon he lieth shall be unclean. And if a woman have an issue of blood okay, so 25, go ahead.
And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, and if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation.
So she's considered unclean. So that separation, actually, I know, I know a group or a camp or a community where they have a house of separation where the women go when it's their time. They just stay in that house until that time is done, and then they return back unto their own house. Okay, so like I said, not everybody is set up that way. I mean, you figure it out, you do. That's just between you and your household. Okay, but we're just giving you what the Bible says about that. Okay, so in 27, you read 26. Every bed whereupon she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean, and the uncleanness of her separation. 27, you said what?
And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean unto the evening.
Okay.
But if she be cleansed of her issue,
right,
then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean.
What else?
And on the 8th day she shall take unto her turtles and 2 young pigeons, and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer for the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for her before the Lord for the issue of her uncleanness.
Go ahead.
Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness. when they defile my tabernacle that is among them.
Okay, so you don't. So you, now this is where you get into the part where you don't want to die in your uncleanness. So that's where you get into trouble. Okay, obviously this is an issue that you can't control. You know, when you get hurt, you know, a guy can get hurt, he can get cut, gash, boom, blood, pus. I don't want to be graphic or anything. Hey, he's unclean. He's considered unclean at that point till that issue gets fixed. Okay, same thing when a woman is in her time of separation, she's unclean. Okay, it's something that's perpetual. Okay, that is perpetual. Now, just having a time of separation is not a sin. It doesn't get you thrown in a lake of fire just because you're a woman and you have an issue. It doesn't mean that. Okay, but you don't want to die in your uncleanness. Like for instance, when you guys together, wash up. Okay, just wash up. You're following the protocol. Wash up. For example. Okay, so that's what I want us to remember. It says they want us to want us in 31. It said, "Thus shall you separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness." Why? That they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. Because a lot of this, before you start going back into the tabernacle and you start going back into the learning, you got to be right. Okay, anytime the priest entered the tabernacle, he had to be clean. He had to be right. He can't be fresh off a union with his wife or anything like that. He's got to be ready to go before he goes into that tabernacle. Understand? So you want to have a cleanness about you. Okay, now this is a law. Verse 32. What does it say?
This is the law of him that hath an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and of him whose seed goeth from him,
Mm-hmm.
and that it is defiled therewith.
Uh-huh.
And of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that hath an issue of the man,
Mm-hmm.
and of the woman, and of him that lieth with her that is unclean.
Okay, so when you lie, so it's just one of those things that if you guys are caught in a situation where you're unclean, it tells you what you need to do. Now, obviously, we don't go to the priest and offer turtle doves and pigeons and things like that, but you clean yourself up. You know, you sacrifice, you know, with prayers and offerings, and you know, obviously you have Messiah now as well, because since we don't have a Levitical priesthood, things like that, now we don't have a Levitical priesthood, but you can take care of an open wound, yes. Yeah. So take care of that open wound. You can wash up afterwards, yes. Yeah. So do that. So don't get caught up in all the other things that you cannot do. Stick with the things you can do. And then the Messiah take care of the rest. That makes sense. Okay? Because that's what he came to do. Okay? It's a messianic priesthood. So he takes care of the rest. The part, you take care of your part, and he'll take care of his part. Is that simple enough? Mm-hmm. All right? So that's all we're talking about. So we're going to go to Numbers chapter 8. Next book, Numbers chapter 8. Numbers chapter 8. Okay? And when we get to Numbers chapter 8, we're going to continue and pick it up, if you will, brother, at verse 5. Pick it up at verse 5 and let the Bible speak.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Mm-hmm.
Take the Levites from among the children of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and cleanse them.
Mm-hmm.
And thus shalt thou do unto them, to cleanse them,
Mm-hmm.
sprinkle water and of
Purifying
upon them, and let them shave all their flesh,
Yep.
and let them wash their clothes,
Mm-hmm.
and so make themselves clean.
Okay, now he was addressing the Levites specifically in this instance, okay? Because we like to pay attention to what the text says. This wasn't for everybody. It says, take the Levites from among the children of Israel and cleanse them. So technically, we can't really do this one, right? Okay, but we still need to understand what's going on, okay? If we don't know who Levite is, then, I mean, you know, you won't get fault for your ignorance. I have no idea who, I could be one, I could not. I have no clue what tribe, okay? So we don't know, all right? So verse 7, he said, and thus thou do unto them to cleanse them, sprinkle water of purifying upon them, and let them shave all their flesh, and let them wash their clothes, and so make themselves clean. Verse 8.
Now let them take a young bull with his meat offering,
Mm-hmm.
even fine flour mingled with oil,
Mm-hmm.
and another young bull shalt thou take for a sin offering.
Mm-hmm.
And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation,
Mm-hmm.
and thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites.
Come on.
And Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord for an offering of the children of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
that they may execute the service of the Lord.
This is when the Levites became the priests to the whole nation of Israel. Do we understand? So he said we're separated. He is purifying the Levites specifically to work in the service of the Lord. Because remember, the Levites were scattered throughout all the 12 tribes being their priests, because every time, the law says, okay, so you're going to take a peace offering, a sin offering, a burnt offering, a meat offering. Who did you give it to? The priest, right? Okay, that's where you had to go. All right, so continue. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle, in verse 9.
And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together.
Read on.
And thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites. And Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord for an offering of the children of Israel, that they may execute the service of the Lord.
Go ahead.
And the Levites shall lay their hands upon the heads of the bullocks, and thou shalt offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering unto the Lord, and take an atonement for the Levites. And thou shalt set the Levites before Aaron and before his sons, and offer them for an offering unto the Lord.
Yes.
Thus shalt thou separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine.
Go ahead.
And after that shall the Levites go in to do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt cleanse them and offer them for an offering.
Why don't you drop down for me to verse 21 and read that for me, please?
And the Levites were purified, and they washed their clothes, and Aaron offered them as an offering before the Lord. And Aaron made an atonement for them to cleanse them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's good. That's all I wanted. We're still in Numbers. We're going to go to chapter 18. Okay, so we're looking at the ritual cleansing of the Levite, who was, again, the chief priest among all the 12 tribes of Israel at the time. Okay, and there will be a return of the Levitical priesthood in the future. Okay, but that's another lesson. Numbers chapter 18, if you will. Chapter 18, if you will. And we're going to start at verse 1. And with there, let the Bible speak.
And the Lord said unto Aaron, thou and thy sons, in thy father's house, and with thee shall bear the iniquity of their sanctuary. And thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood. And thy brethren also of the tribe of Levi and the tribe of thy father bring thou with thee, that they may be joined unto thee, and minister unto thee. That thou and thy sons with thee shall minister before the tabernacle of witnessing.
Go ahead.
And they shall keep thy charge and the charge of all the tabernacle. Only they shall not come nigh the vessels of the sanctuary and the altar. That neither they nor ye also die.
Okay, so he said you got to do the right thing. He's got to do the correct ministry, the charge, other words, the service of the Lord. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so it says here, look at charge, which is Mishmareth. Okay, guard, charge, function, obligation, service, watch. Okay, so we get an idea. That's what the charge of the Lord right there. Okay, so we're going to continue. And where'd you stop at verse 4? Yeah, there you go. Start at verse 4. Verse 4. And they shall be joined.
And they shall be joined unto thee, and keep the charge of the tabernacle of the congregation for all the service of the tabernacle, and a stranger shall not come nigh unto you.
Go ahead.
And ye shall keep the charge of the sanctuary and the charge of the altar, that there be no wrath any more upon the children of Israel.
Come on.
And I, behold, I have taken your brethren of the Levites from among the children of Israel. To you they are given as a gift for the Lord, to do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Read on.
Therefore thou and thy sons with thee shall keep your priest's office for everything of the altar and within the veil, and ye shall serve. I have given your priest's office unto you as a service of gift. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death.
Ooh, go ahead. You don't belong here. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Aaron, behold, I also have given thee the charge of mine
heave
offerings of all the hallowed things of the children of Israel. Unto thee have I given them by reason of the anointing, and to thy sons by an ordinance forever.
Come on.
This shall be thine of the most holy things, reserved from the fire. Every oblation of theirs, every meat offering of theirs, and every sin offering of theirs, and every trespass offering of theirs, which they shall render unto me, shall be most holy for thee and for thy sons. Okay,
if you do it the right way, it'll be accepted. It's going to be considered holy. If you did this and you went to the priests, you went to the Levites, then it'll be accepted. It'll be considered holy. But you had to do it the right way. You can't cut corners, okay? We already know about Nadab and Abihu. They tried to cut corners and offer some strange fire and got cut off, okay? And they were the priests. So imagine what happens if you do it, okay, at this time, okay? So just keep that in mind. It had to be done a certain way. The Most High has his reasons, okay? So we just got to remember that, okay? And it says, shall be most holy for thee and for thy sons. In verse 10, go ahead.
In the most holy place shalt thou eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Eat it. Every male shall eat it.
Mm-hmm.
It shall be holy unto thee.
Go ahead.
And this is thine, the heave offering of their gift,
Mm-hmm.
and with all the wave offerings of the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I have given them unto thee,
Mm-hmm.
and to thy sons and to thy daughters with thee,
Mm-hmm.
by the statute forever. Every one that is clean in thy house shall eat of it.
Mm-hmm.
All the best of the oil, and all the best of the wine, and of the wheat, the first fruits of them,
Mm-hmm.
which they shall offer unto the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Them have I given thee.
Come on.
And whatsoever is first right in the land which they shall bring unto the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
shall be thine. Everyone that is clean in thine house shall eat of it.
Everyone that is clean in the house shall eat of it. Okay, and verse 14, finish at verse 14.
Everything devoted in Israel shall be.
It shall be, everything devoted shall be thine. All of that, talking about holy, setting up a holy priesthood and giving law and order, giving protocol in this whole thing. It's how it used to be. I want us to think back and peer back into the past and look at what was going on at the time, so we can have a little bit of better understanding. Sometimes we got to get our mindset out of the modern and get right back into the days of old, so we can have a better understanding. We're trying to get into their perspective. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to adopt their perspective. Okay, well, why did they do this? Why did they do that? Why did the Most High say this or that? That's what we have to understand. Okay, I know, I understand that now we're not under this particular priesthood and we're under Christ. I get that. But we still need to look back from time to time. Now, Leviticus chapter 7, I just want one verse there, and we'll go back to Numbers here in a second. We're going to go back and forth. It's going to be Leviticus and Numbers and Leviticus and Numbers. But we'll go back in just a second. So Leviticus chapter 7, just want one verse real quick. Go back one book. Chapter 7, and give me verse 19, if you will.
And the flesh that toucheth any unclean thing shall not be eaten.
Mm-hmm.
It shall be burnt with fire.
Mm-hmm.
And as for the flesh, all that be clean shall eat thereof.
Okay, so anything is unclean, you won't eat it. You burn it. Okay, you won't eat that, especially when it comes like to offerings and stuff. Where we're talking about, offerings made unto the Lord. Now, we know these offerings most of the time were food. Okay, and then it says something unclean, it will be burned with fire. As for the flesh, all that be clean shall eat thereof. We can eat that. Okay, all that is clean. Anything unclean, let the bacon burn. It's got to go. Okay. So I just want to point that out real quick, but we're going to go back to Numbers chapter 5. Numbers chapter 5. Okay. And pick it up at verse 2, and then we'll jump to 12. Verse 2.
Command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper.
Mm-hmm. Every leper. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I'll look at leper real quick because we know it's a person with disease. But anyway, it's Satra, okay? Satra, to be diseased of skin, be leprous, to be a leper, or to have leprosy, okay? So go ahead. So he said, command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper. Mm-hmm.
And everyone that hath an issue, and whosoever is defiled by the dead,
mm-hmm.
both male and female shall ye put out. Without the camp shall ye put them,
mm-hmm.
that they defile not their camps,
mm-hmm.
in the midst whereof I dwell.
Okay, so it's a good idea not to bury, the dead like on your own land or something. It's good to actually have a cemetery because that, the dead needs to be separate from the living, away from you. Okay, so that's actually a good thing. But anyway, go right ahead. Verse 3. No, we're going to drop down to 12. Sorry, go ahead.
Speak unto the children of Israel,
mm-hmm.
and say unto them, if any man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him,
mm-hmm.
and a man lie with her carnally,
mm-hmm.
and it be hid from the eyes of her husband,
mm-hmm.
and be kept close, and she be defiled.
So it's a secret still. Go ahead.
And there be no witness against her,
mm-hmm.
neither she be taken with a manner.
Mm-hmm. So she did it willingly. Go ahead.
And the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife,
mm-hmm.
and she be defiled. or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled.
It should be not defiled. So whether she did it or not, okay, he feels jealous. He is suspicious. Okay, the husband is suspicious of her wife. He thinks she's been stepping out. Okay, that's that spirit of jealousy. Okay, and 15. What is he going to do in verse 15?
Then shall the man bring his wife unto the priest, and he shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah and barley meal. He shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense thereon. For it is an offering of jealousy, an offering of memorial, bringing iniquity to remembrance.
Bringing iniquity to remembrance. So they're trying to find out the situation, basically. Okay, this is how you do a little test, like a little DNA test or something like that. And but this is a way of trying to figure out, okay, did his wife indeed mess around? Verse 16.
And the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel. And of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle, the priest shall take it and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord and uncover the woman's head and put the offering of them.
And uncover the woman's head. Just on a side note, that means her head was covered in the first place, correct? Just a side note. Go ahead. Just want to learn something on the way of learning something. I'm not saying that, it's a law there, but I'm just saying it is a custom that the women had their head covered. Continue.
And put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causeth the curse.
Go ahead.
And the priest shall charge her by an oath, and say unto the woman, if no man have lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness with another instead of thy husband, be thou free from this bitter water that causeth the curse.
Go ahead.
But if thou hast gone aside to another instead of thy husband, and if thou be defiled, and some man have lain with thee beside thy husband, then the priest shall charge the woman with an oath of cursing.
With an oath of cursing.
And the priest shall say unto the woman, the Lord make thee a curse and an oath among thy people.
Which is an execration or a curse from God. It's an oath of a covenant or a curse from God. Okay, so you said, in verse 21, it says, then the priest shall charge the woman with an oath of cursing, and the priest shall say unto the woman, the Lord make thee a curse and an oath among thy people. Continue. When the Lord what?
When the Lord doth make thy thigh to rot, and thy belly to swell.
Go ahead.
And this water that causeth the curse shall go into thy bowl.
Bowels.
To make thy belly to swell, and thy thigh to rot. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen.
Let it be. Let it be so. Okay, let it be so. Verily, verily, or truly, truly, so be it. Basically. 23.
And the priest shall write these curses in a book, and he shall blot them out with the bitter water. And he shall cause the woman to drink the bitter water that causeth the curse, and the water that causeth the curse shall enter into her, and become bitter.
What else?
Then the priest shall make the jealousy offering out of the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before the Lord, and offer it upon the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the offering, even the memorial offering thereof, and burn it upon the altar, and afterward shall cause the woman to drink the water.
What else?
And when he hath made her to drink the water, then it shall come to pass that if she be defiled and have done trespass against her husband, that the water that causeth the curse shall enter into her,
and what?
And become bitter, and her belly shall swell, and her thigh that shall rot. And the woman shall be a curse among her people.
Okay, yeah, she's going to be looked at real differently. She's going to be cursed, and everyone's going to know it, okay? Because, in that culture, you didn't mess around. Or if you mess around, it's a big deal. Is it a big deal today? No. It's culture today, okay? But she's considered unclean. She's considered defiled. She goes stepping out on her husband, okay? We're talking about cleanliness and unclean. Defiled means you are unclean, okay? So she is defiled if she does that. And he said, or when the spirit cometh upon him, what, in verse 30? Or I don't want to, among her people, 28, I want to continue.
And if the woman be not defiled, but be clean, then she shall be free and shall conceive seed.
Of course she will. Go ahead.
This is the law of jealousy.
The law of jealousy. So this is a law. The law of jealousies, right? This is the last time we checked, this was in Torah, right? Okay, so we said back to Torah. Okay, we're talking about cleanliness and uncleanliness. In this particular case, we're talking about someone being defiled. So we're dealing with the law of jealousies. Okay, so it said this is the law of jealousies when what?
When a wife goeth aside to another instead of her husband, and is defiled.
Go ahead.
Or when the spirit of jealousy cometh upon him, and he be jealous over his wife, and shall set the woman before the Lord, and shall execute upon her all this law.
This is a law. Go ahead.
Then shall the man be guiltless from iniquity, and the woman shall bear her iniquity.
Okay, and the woman shall bear her iniquity. So now it's not on the husband. It's not on the husband because she runs out to the side and be with and lay with someone else. That's not his fault. That's not his fault. He suspect, hey, there's been foul play. Let's get to the bottom of this. He finds out. He's clear of the guilt. Now, where did he let her go? Whatever, hey, that's up to him. But he's cleared of the guilt. Okay, that is it. All right, now this one here, remember, they don't have a witness. There's no one saw it, no witness. A guy didn't step forward. He doesn't really know. It's the spirit of jealousy. He doesn't really know. Okay, so you got to, you go from there. But hey, this is a law. All right, this is the law. Now, if there was a guy, then a husband, hey, may the Lord have mercy on that dude. Okay, if there's been some foul play. But this is the law. So we're just talking about this is back to Torah, cleanliness. We're going to keep on going. Okay, we're in Numbers 5 right now, but we're going to go ahead and go to Leviticus 12. Okay, we're just going to read all of Leviticus 12 because it's a very short chapter. So we're going to read all of it. Start at verse 1.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a woman have
conceived a seed
and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation for her infirmity shall she be unclean. And in the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised.
On the 8th day it's time to do a sword. So that's a law too, huh? Back to Torah. That's a law too. Go ahead.
And she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 30 days. And shall touch no hollow thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. Okay,
so what that looks like now is that it says, and she shall then continue in the blood of her purification. So she just had a man child. She just had a man child. And 33 days. So basically she didn't come into the tabernacle for 33 days. She's excused from that. I know a particular class where, again, they have a separate room. Okay, the ladies who have the issue of the blood, or they just had a child or something, they're in a completely separate room from the rest of the congregation. That room is dedicated for that purpose only. Okay. And so if it was modern day today and we had that set up, I don't, but if we had that set up, then that's where she would go for 33 days. Just being separate. She just had a kid. Hey, congratulations. Okay, you go over there. All right, that's it. Not to be mean, just trying to follow the protocol, just trying to follow how it is, trying to do the best we can, right? Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So for 33 days, she'd be over there for purifying. But if she, in verse 5, what does it say? But if she bear a maid child, what?
But if she bear a maid child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her separation. And she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 36 days. Okay, so 36 days. Okay, so go ahead. And when the days of her purifying and fulfilled, for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering. 63 days. So go ahead. So 60 days, 66 total. 66 days, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I can start back at 6. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Start at 6. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for an sin offering, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priest, who shall offer it before the Lord and make an atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the issue of her blood. This is the law for her that hath borne a male or a female. And if she be not able to bring a lamb, then she shall bring 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons, the one for the burnt offering, and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for her, and she shall be clean.
Okay, so yeah, so when the Fountain of Israel, when we start our community and get our community, we're gonna build a house, gonna build a home for that time of separation. That's what we want to do. We're trying to do the very best we can and living out in the world. I'm sure you guys know it is really, really hard to get it all done right. It's really, really hard. But when you get, into a community and you try to abide by these rules and these statutes and stuff, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier. Will you get it perfect? Probably not, but you get a lot closer than you are today. A lot closer than you are right now. So that's our aim. That's our total aim, to try to get into a space to where we can come out of my people. When the holidays and stuff comes around or whatever, and you don't want to be surrounded by that, you don't want to drive down the block and see all this other stuff. It's just trying to get back to what is going to actually give us some salvation. What is going to actually identify us as one of his. This is what we're talking about. Okay, so we want to do that which pleases the Lord. When Christ returns, who shall he find so doing? With that, we're going to continue. We're in Leviticus 12. Let's go on over to the New Testament. Let's go on over to Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. I think this is our first New Testament scripture we've gone to. Luke chapter 2. And when you get to Luke chapter 2, pick it up at verse 15, if you will, and let the Bible speak.
And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, let us now go even unto
Bethlehem,
and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph, and the babe laying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the
which was told to
them concerning this child.
What happened?
And all they that heard it wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds.
What else?
But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart.
So she thought on it really hard, and then what happened?
And the shepherds returned, glorying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, as it was
told unto them.
And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child, his name was called Jesus, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived.
Okay, so we see two things back in Torah. It said 21. He said, and when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child. Read verse 22.
And when the days of her purification, according to the law of Moses, were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord.
Look at what happened there, okay? Because we have some understanding right here. Even in the New Testament, they still were trying to practice this separation, this purification, right? Even in the New Testament, okay? So there you have it right there, okay? So we just want to go right back to Torah and just understand what is going on. I just wanted to point that out to you guys. We're going to go right back to Torah, which is Numbers chapter 9. Let's go back to Numbers chapter 9. Okay, you guys with me so far so good? All right, Numbers chapter 9. And when you get there, brother, pick it up at verse 1. Let the Bible speak.
And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of
Sinai.
In the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt,
saying,
let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at his appointed season.
Go ahead.
In the 14th day of this month at even, ye shall keep it in his appointed season, according to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof. Shall ye keep it.
All the rites, all the ceremonies, you're supposed to keep it. Go ahead.
And Moses spake unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover. And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at even in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So did the children of Israel.
What else?
And they were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day. And they came before Moses and before Aaron on that day. And those men said unto him,
Mm-hmm.
We are defiled by the dead body of a man.
Mm-hmm.
Wherefore we
are kept back.
We are kept back, that we may not offer an offering of the Lord in his appointed season among the children of Israel.
Okay, so that's a question. So he asked the question like, man, so we're not going to be able to do that, huh? So go ahead, verse 8.
And Moses said unto them, Stand still, and I will hear what the Lord will command concerning you.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And the 14th day of the second month at even they shall keep it,
Mm-hmm.
and eat it, and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs.
So that is second Passover, in case you couldn't make the first Passover. That's exactly what this is. They're describing second Passover, the 14th day of the second month. Then you can keep the Passover. Okay? So go ahead. Verse 12.
They shall leave none of it unto the morning,
Mm-hmm.
nor break any bone of it, according to all the ordinances of the Passover. They shall keep it.
Go ahead.
But the man that is clean and is not in a journey,
Mm-hmm.
and forbeareth to keep the Passover,
Mm-hmm.
even the same soul shall be cut off from among his people,
Mm-hmm.
because he brought not the offering of the Lord in his appointed season.
Mm-hmm.
That man shall bear his sin.
That man shall bear his sin. Let's read one more, 14, so we can include everybody. Go ahead.
And if a stranger shall sojourn among you, and will keep the Passover unto the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
according to the ordinance of the Passover,
Mm-hmm.
and according to the manner thereof,
Mm-hmm.
so shall he do. Ye shall have no ordinance, both for the stranger.
Okay, let's read that again. Ye shall have what? One. And the end of 14. And ye shall have one ordinance.
Ye shall have one ordinance, both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land.
Okay, so there you go. So it's going to be for both the Israelite and the stranger. One ordinance, okay? Can't have two different sets of rules, okay? So I want that to be understood. So we're going to have the next, we're in Numbers 9. Go to Numbers 19. Go to Numbers 19. Numbers chapter 19. When we go to 19, we're going to have two verses out of there, so we got to jump around a little bit. It's going to be verse 4. Verse 4, what does that say?
And these are the priests that shall take of her blood with his finger, and sprinkle of her blood directly before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times.
Okay, now drop down to 16, if you will.
And whosoever toucheth one that is slain with the sword in the open fields, or a dead body, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days.
Okay, so when you have to deal with the dead, you know, when you go to a funeral or anything like that, you're unclean for 7 days, okay? And usually funerals happens on Saturdays and Sundays or whatever. So for a whole week, you are unclean. So don't go to class, you know, unless that's, you know, on the 8th day, unless it lands on the 8th day. You go on a funeral on a Sunday or something, oh, don't go to Sabbath class next Saturday, okay? So just don't do that, because you're over at the funeral, you touch the body and all that, so just don't do it. That's something, my point is, that's something that's possible, something you can do, right? Because everyone always complain about stuff, oh, well, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do that, okay? If you go to a funeral, can you just miss class the next week? Is that possible? Okay, so we're talking about things that you can do, okay, because you're considered unclean. I hope that is clear. Let's go to Leviticus 21. Leviticus 21. Leviticus chapter 21. And we just want the first 4 verses. Let the Bible speak.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Speak unto the priests of the sons of Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
and said unto them, There shall be none be defiled for the dead among his people.
Go ahead.
But for his kin, that is near unto him, that is for his mother, and for his father, and for his son, and for his daughter, and for his brother.
What else?
And for his sister a virgin, that is nigh unto him,
What else?
which had no husband.
Mm-hmm.
For her may he be defiled.
So you can go to a funeral or handle the dead body if it's someone near kin to you, that is near unto you. That is for his mother, you can go to her funeral. For his father, you can go to his funeral. For his son or his daughter or his brother, you can go on to their funeral. Or for his sister, who is unmarried, okay, who's a virgin, she's unmarried, means she doesn't have a husband, that is nigh unto him, which had no husband, for her may he be defiled. It's okay. But in verse 4, what does that say? Verse 4.
But he shall not defile himself, being a chief man among his people, to profane himself.
Okay, so if you're a pastor, if it's not one of these people, right, I can't defile myself and then just run on up into the class and just start teaching. You just can't do that. You'll just have to excuse me. Okay? Can't do that, because if you're going to be a chief man among his people to profane himself, you don't want to do that. Okay? That's what we have to understand when it comes to this cleanliness. You got to do it the best you can. Got to do it the best you can. We got to do this with some understanding here. So we're in Leviticus 21. Let's go to Numbers 6. One book over. Numbers chapter 6. Numbers chapter 6. And let's pick it up at verse 1. Let the Bible speak. Verse 1. Number 6 and 1.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, and separate themselves unto the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink, and shall drink no vinegar of wine or vinegar of strong drink. Neither shall he drink any liquor or of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dry. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree, from the kernels even to the husk. All the days of the vow of his separation there shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled, in the which he separateth himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. All the days that he separateth himself unto the Lord, he shall become at no dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father or for his mother, for his brother or for his sister, when they die, because the consecration of his God is upon his head. And all the days of his separation he is holy unto the Lord.
Yes.
And if any man die very suddenly by him, and he hath defiled the head of his consecration, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day shall he shave it. And on the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtles and 2 young pigeons
to the priest,
to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering, and make an atonement for him, for that he sinned by the dead, and shall hallow his head that same day. And he shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his separation, and shall bring a lamb of the first year for a trespass over offering. But the days that were before shall be lost, because his separation was defiled. Okay, so for instance, he tried to separate himself, okay, for the Lord, like this is the vow of the Nazarite, and he tried to separate himself and try to do this for the Lord, no grapes, no wine at all, no vinegar, anything like that. But suddenly someone dies, someone in his family, he dies or whatever, he defiles himself. Should he do that, if that were to happen, then he needs to end that Nazarite vow, shave his head, cleanse himself, and it is over. Then he said the days before that, all that is lost because the separation was defiled in verse 12. It's over, okay? So when it says in 12, he shall consecrate unto the Lord these days of his separation. That consecration means to dedicate, okay? Okay, that is nazar. Okay, Hebrew word nazar. It is to dedicate or concentrate or separate. Okay, to dedicate oneself or to devote oneself or to keep sacredly. Okay, that's what that means, to consecrate. All right, so that's what it means to be, to have the Nazarite law. But I wanted to cover what happens if you're under that vow and you're trying to keep that Nazarite vow and someone suddenly dies. Okay, that means your vow is ended. You may shave your head, you go through your purification 7 days, and that's it. It's over. That vow is over. That vow is done. Okay? It's because you were defiled at the time. Okay? Let's try one more place. Let's try another place here. Let's go to Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8. Matthew 8:1. Let the Bible speak. When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper, and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean.
And what happened?
And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed.
Okay, so immediately his leprosy was cleansed. So he was made clean at the time, but he just wanted release. He just wanted a cure. He wanted his leprosy to end, but he knew he was unclean. But he went unto our high priest, like that's what we're supposed to do. He went unto our high priest and to ask to be clean, and it was granted unto him. Okay, so that's what I want us to get out of this lesson. We're going to get a few more verses here, a little bit more, just so we can have a real good understanding. In fact, what I will do is I'll end up breaking this up into 2 parts for us, so we can go ahead and have that. So what I'm going to do is go back one more time. Go back to Leviticus 15, and we'll end it in Leviticus 15. Okay, let's go Leviticus chapter 15. And let's end where we started, Leviticus 15. And when you get there, start at verse 1, and this will be the last place we go to for part 1 of this lesson. Okay, Leviticus 15. Go ahead.
Leviticus 15.
Starting in verse 1.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue he is unclean. And this shall be his uncleanness in his issue, whether his flesh run from his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue. It is his uncleanness. Every bed whereon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat that hath the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And he that toucheth the flesh of him that hath the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening.
Come on.
And if he that hath the issue spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that hath the issue shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the evening. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening.
Come on.
And whomsoever that he toucheth that hath the issue, and hath not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water unto the evening, and be unclean until the evening. And the vessel of earth that he toucheth which hath the issue shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when he that hath an issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall remember to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes and bathe himself in running water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to him 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them unto the priest. And the priest shall offer them, and the priest shall offer them.
Yeah, the one for a sin offering.
One for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord for his issue.
Go ahead.
And if any man's seed of copulation go out with him, from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until the evening. And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water, and be unclean until the evening. The woman also with whom man shall lie with thy seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water, and be unclean until the evening. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall put apart 7 days, and whomsoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And if it be on her head, her bed, or on anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean until the evening.
Notice it says he shall be unclean until the evening, not unclean for the rest of his life. Okay, just follow the instructions, and you will be unclean until the evening. Okay, that's it. You're from day to day. Okay, so that's simply how it goes. But continue. Let's finish it up.
If any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation. She shall be unclean.
Go ahead.
Every bed whereon she lieth, all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation. And whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean, and as the uncleanness of her separation. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. But if she be cleansed of her issue, and she shall number herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take unto her 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for her before the Lord for the issue of her uncleanness.
Go ahead.
Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. And this is the law of him that hath an issue, and of him whose seed goeth from him, and is defiled therewith. And of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that hath an issue, of the man and of the woman, and of him that lieth with her that is unclean. That
is how that simply goes. That is the law of uncleanness. And so that's what I want us to understand. It was one of those laws, is whether it's physical, whether it's ritual, or it's spiritual, ceremonial. This is the law of uncleanness. Okay, so this is a back to Torah lesson. I want us to get a really good understanding. Join us for part 2 of this particular lesson, the law of cleanliness. Until next time, I hope someone has been edified and got something out of this lesson. Search the scriptures and prove all things.